when you say I took responsibility. When Mr. Westmoreland asked you that question, you said, what, contracting and so forth? So when you say you were responsible for something, Madam Secretary, what does that mean? If you're responsible, what action would you have done differently? What do you own as a result of this? So far I've heard, since we've been together today, I've heard one dismissive thing after another. It was this group, it was that group, I wasn't served by this, I wasn't served by that. What did you do? What do you own?
Well, I was just telling you some of the many related issues I was working on to try to help the Libyan people make.
What's your responsibility to Benghazi? That's my question.
Well, my responsibility was to be briefed and to discuss with the security experts and the policy experts whether we would have a post in Benghazi, whether we would continue it, whether we would make it permanent. And as I've said repeatedly throughout the day, no one ever recommended closing the post in Benghazi.
No one recommended closing, but you had two ambassadors that made several requests, and here's basically what happened to their requests. They were torn up.
Well, that's just not true, Congressman. I know
Secretary, they didn't get through. It didn't help them. Were those responded to? Is that your testimony today?
Many were responded to. There were affirmative responses to a number of requests for additional security.
And you laid this on Chris Stevens, didn't you?
Both.
Because you said earlier he knows where to pull the levers. So aren't you implying that it's his responsibility to figure out how he's supposed to be secure because Chris Stevens knows how to pull the levers? Is that your testimony?
Ambassadors are the ones who pass on security recommendations and requests. That's true throughout the world.
And when he does, and they're
rely on their security professionals.
What's his remedy if they're not responded to? What's his remedy if it's no?
As I testified earlier, he was in regular email contact with some of my closest advisors.
So hit resend, is that it?
He was in regular email contact and cable contact with a number of
cables didn't get through. You created an environment, Madam Secretary, where the cables couldn't get through. Now,
well, that is inaccurate. Cables, as we have testified, and as
they didn't get through to you. They didn't break into your inner circle. That was your testimony earlier. You can't have it both ways. You can't say all this information came into me and I was able to process it, and yet it all stops at the security professionals.
Well, that's not what Congressman, that's not what I was saying. I think we've tried to clarify that, millions of cables come in. They're processed and sent to the appropriate offices and personnel. With respect to specific...
They didn't get through. They didn't make any difference. They couldn't break into the inner circle of decision-making. Now, let me draw your attention in closing to